We have now made it to the Oregon Trunk Rail Bridge. However, there isn't a spot around the bridge to stop, but there is one slightly east of here, Celilo Park.
Wow, look at that. So that's how they move it?
Yeah, that's a lift bridge.
Wow. Are you video?
Yes, video. Also looks like that's a junction off of the Union Pacific to connect with the line.
So you're saying there's a separate one for BN?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. Lifts it all the way across.
Not long after getting to Celilo Park, a westbound Union Pacific train headed by two C-44 ACMs, one a former AC-4400 CW and one a former AC-6000 CW, heads through. These rebuilds of mainly GE locomotives from the 1990s to the 2000s have allowed for railroads like the Union Pacific, Canadian Pacific, CSX, and Canadian National to extend the lifespans of many of their locomotives, as well as make them more fuel efficient and slightly more powerful, something Norfolk Southern began doing in the mid-2010s, who may have kicked off the trend of rebuilding GE locomotives. EMD locomotives from the 90s have also been rebuilt, albeit with varying success, and the EMD rebuilds aren't nearly as popular as the GE rebuilds. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. Some time passed by and a BNSF train along the Oregon Trunk line passes through. I would then walk to a spot where I would be able to see the BNSF train crossing over the Oregon Trunk Bridge, which, although was a bit far for me, would certainly be pretty cool to see anyways. Although I don't think the wind was exactly pleased with my plan of seeing a BNSF train crossing the Columbia River over the Oregon Trunk Bridge. It's also migration season, and a couple of geese were also around here.
far away, but I got it.
You can zoom it out. Let's look for the zoom.
It's visible enough from...
How close can you be? It's a bridge. You want to be on a boat? Once you get out on our boat, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Did you see it come down? The bridge?
No.
Maybe you can catch it going up.
Yeah.
You on the side of the road catching that? Because I heard it and I'm like, where is he? And then I realized
I was so over at the crossing, I was trying to anticipate a second Union Pacific train.
and then you ran to the other side of the road.
Yes.
Union Pacific 1031, formerly Southern Pacific 9790, passes through the area light engine. This is a GP60, or otherwise known as a Jeep. Although when they were built, they were mostly used for mainline services, these days a lot of these Jeeps are used for local or branch line service. On the Washington side, a BNSF train with autorack cars passes by. The Washington side of the Columbia River carries the tracks of the former Spokane, Portland, and Seattle Railway, a subsidiary of both Great Northern and Northern Pacific. Mainly Northern Pacific, though, as the SP&S's steam locomotives mostly derive from the NP. Although I caught quite a few trains around this area, I still wanted to see one more train. After the necessity of having to take a near lethal dose of patience, for real, rail fanning is so hard if you don't have patience, an eastbound Union Pacific manifest flies through.
of history shining in the sun. We're the Union Pacific, and our stories must just begun.
An SD-70M and an SD-70 Ace with Union Pacific's 2022 livery bring up the rear.
Well, freaking finally!
With that finished, we'd head back to Portland.